Is the Village of Mamaroneck Planning Board meeting on June 22nd, 2022. I have a notice for the fire exits, but we don't have to do that. We're on Zoom again tonight. The governor extended the executive order until the middle of July, so our next meeting will also be on Zoom. And then the extension expires right after that, and we'll just take it 1 month at a time. Okay. Into the agenda, let me take attendance. We have all members of the planning board here: Ellen Styler, Cindy Goldstein, Richard Littman, and Seamus O'Rourke, and myself. We have the building inspector, Frank Tavolacci. From Keller Sessions, our consulting engineer, we have John Keller. From AKRF, our consulting planner, we have Alicia Moore. From our land use attorneys, and I always mess up the name of your big law firm, we have Charlie Gottlieb. And from Terabello Landscaping, we have our landscape architect consulting, landscape architect Susan Oakley. Okay, before we get into the application, that we have one application on the agenda today. We have the minutes from June 8th, 2022. Does anybody have any comments on this? Anybody play our little Who Found a Typo game?
Yeah, I have one, Kathy. I was looking at the resolution on 1010 Orienta, and on page 6, in one of the sentences, we evidently approved pants.
Uh-oh.
The word pants is
probably went through that way. That resolution has been signed and has been delivered.
I find that very interesting. Where'd that come from?
It might have been plans. I don't know. I didn't print out the resolution, and the resolution itself now is filed away in the closed application file.
Evidently, we've just endorsed pants. So good.
I heartily agree. Let's endorse pants for sure. On Zoom, we never know.
Yeah, right. I know that awful commercial. Who puts their screen down like that? Nobody. Well, maybe some. I don't know. Anyway, we did hear some stories about people on Zoom. Yes, we did, didn't we?
My only comment was a question. I could go either way on this. Did you guys think that basically the second sentence of this whole thing, Chair Savault noted that Mr. Keller and Ms. Oakley have responded to the email received by the board prior to the last meeting, was a little vague. I'm fine with it. I don't think it's helpful in the notes in the minutes, because it would never be able to be understood what that was. I would either strike it or add some more info. But if you guys are good with it, then I don't care very much.
You know, I looked at it, I had kind of the same reaction, and I said, do I want to write more about this? And I said, no, I don't.
if we feel like we want it covered, I'm okay. I would just strike it. I don't, if you look at that a year from now, I think it's meaningless. I would just.
Well, you know what, these minutes aren't meant to actually record everything that was happened and said at the meeting. They're really action items. And they refer people to the videos that are available online. Of course, that assumes everybody in the world has a computer that might be interested in this, which I still think doesn't happen, but we're getting there.
I mean, I would leave it just because it does represent a conversation, and I assume that the comments were posted on the website. So there was an acknowledgement that it was addressed, so I would leave it.
Yeah.
I understand it's a little.
It actually refers to something from the meeting before. It sort of
no issues. Just one
closes the loop from the meeting before. Right.
Okay.
So I have a little tiny typo.
Okay.
I guess it is on the second page. It is B, where it talks about 415 Claflin Avenue. It has the citation of the village code. It would be section 342-75. C and E would each have parentheses around them.
Okay.
Because it looks like it's CE, and I think I'm looking at the code. It looks like it would be both C and E. So it's 342-75 paren C, close paren E, close paren.
And that was taken right from the agenda for that meeting. And if you look at tonight's agenda, it's the same error. So
Okay,
time that Claflin's been on our agenda, we've had the citation wrong.
yeah, I don't,
Better late than never.
I don't proof the agenda, so I just proof in the minutes.
Right. So we're gonna have to look at the resolution too when we get there, and make sure we have the right citations.
Okay, good point.
I'm looking at Charlie. And we've been joined by Dennis Drogan, our assistant building inspector. All right, anybody else have anything on these minutes? Nope. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Or as,
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Seamus,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Before we get into the actual application, I just want to take a few minutes to thank Frank Tavolacci, who this will be his last planning board meeting as he is retiring at the end of the month. On a personal note, I want to thank you for your service to the village. And I just want to make note of how wonderful it's been to work with you. It was great that we were able to form a nice relationship between the planning board team and yourself. I hope that continues with your successor, hint, hint, Dennis. And I really wish you all the best. You're quite the gentleman, and I really enjoyed working with you. And I hope that the other members of the planning board echo that sentiment. So thank you, and bon voyage. I hope you have a great stress-free life from this point forward. Because nothing you're going to do in the future can be as stressful as what you're doing now. Okay, that brings us to the item on the agenda, site plan review for 415 Claflin Avenue. We're coming to the end of the process with Claflin. This is for a renovation, an addition, removing a accessory building and moving, I guess we're not moving the pool, although we're moving the location of the pool. We're taking out one pool and putting in another in a different location. So do we have someone here to sort of bring us up to date on what's happened? We know we have some things that just happened this afternoon, so I hope the board members saw the emails with the new plans and the issue that arose today. Okay, I see we have Michael with us. I understand that the attorney for the applicant is not with us today because his child is graduating. So congratulations. And who's going to speak?
Kathy, can I please request, I think Kate Bakewell's also in the waiting room. She's our landscape architect, I think.
I promoted her.
Yeah, I think she's getting on.
Okay, great.
So Liam's daughter's graduating tonight, so he couldn't be on the call. He's the architect. We do have Mike. I think there's a few questions from Mike, most of which have been answered last meeting by John Kellett. I can hand over to Mike. Mike, if you want to speak first about your portion, and then Kate's here to talk about, there's a few questions about the tree preservation plan. We understand that we're one of the first subjects you guys have with extensive landscaping being brought in front of you guys, given the new rules that have come online. So we're also learning along the way, but I think we've done a lot of work after the last meeting, and I'll let Mike and Kate take over.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Michael Stein with Hudson Engineering. It's good to see everyone tonight. So really the changes were very minor. There was some regrading that we had added, some smaller retaining walls just to avoid any disturbance of tree roots within the drip line, some adjustments to the stormwater, the the alignment of the stormwater piping to make sure we have an adequate cover over top. But it really was very limited. I think Kathleen maybe will answer everything to primary questions, which were pertaining to landscape.
Well, I
Right,
think-
it was, oh, go
So,
ahead.
sorry, Kate, I'm interrupting you. So one thing specifically asked by Susan for us, which we didn't have in the beginning, was we only had a few trees shown as protected, and specific requirement as per the new guidelines is any tree on the landscape on the plot has to be shown with tree protection. So we have 16 total trees, and I think Mike, you guys did a bunch of work on that.
Yes, and then so this is our existing conditions and demolition plan. So we did add a tree protection all throughout, and that's reflected on the trees all around the site that are to remain protected.
Great.
Right. And another point that's come up was how are we going to access the plot when we start changing the pool in the back, and where does the heavy machinery get it from? So initially, like, I think the preferred route has been from the left side of the property where you still have nothing built on it. But once that is built, the question that was raised, I think there was a prior discussion in the meeting. How do trucks or earth movers get to the back? And so we are going to preserve the existing driveway for the pool until the construction and the demolition in the back is completely finished. And our intention is to only remove the driveway once the whole construction is finished. Landscaping is going to, the new landscaping and the removal of this driveway is going to happen in the end. So, like, we're not going to cut off this access point for the back of the property, at least until the later stages of the construction.
And that's all right in this area here.
Right.
And
I think
the plans that got sent this afternoon reflect all of that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that this is what got changed this afternoon, right? Okay.
Then we also have a landscape architect on the call today, and then I think there's a few questions about. So we have presented a planting schedule with quite a few new trees, but what are we going to do for the existing trees, and what kind of mitigation techniques we might use? And maybe Kate can also talk a little bit about her approach to the design that she's had on what we're going to do with the plot.
Well, first to address the latest tree preservation plan, there was one minor tweak, which was graphically we punched up the visibility of the contour lines, and then more importantly, we added a lot more notes that support the tree protection that Michael's already showing on his drawings, but we put in text a lot more of the best practices that will help protect those trees prior to construction, all during construction, and even after construction. And so those notes roughly go in the categories of root pruning, techniques for doing that, and how to really do that properly, and maintaining the soil moisture, protecting the roots even beyond the fencing with matting and other techniques to prevent compaction on the roots that extend beyond those tree protection fences. And then just kind of addressing irrigation, but also having an arborist get involved. Oh, and one more thing, just careful hand trenching anywhere there might be disturbance due to the installation of things like utility lines. So I have to say that in my experience, this set of notes is about the most robust I've seen in a long time. It's usually fence a tree and kind of leave it at that. And this is a whole methodology of really like pampering the trees all throughout. And this is something that Vic really felt strongly about. He's a lover of trees, and so he's really pushed hard for the the highest and best treatment of these trees. So in general, so for the proposed landscape design, we of course have a big plant palette that's very focused on natives, and that is what we're proposing as we plant new trees in the new landscape after construction.
And you've addressed any trees that may not be fully on the applicant's property, because there was a mention in Susan Oakley's memo talking about protecting the root systems of neighboring property trees. that were close by. So, I mean, it looks like most of these trees are on the property. Does it show somewhere which are the neighbor trees that'll be protected?
So all the trees that are anywhere close to the line of disturbance, they're on our property. There are some that are right on the border. I think there's a tree number 8 back here. Then there's these 2 trees, 6 and 7. They are quite a bit further away from line of disturbance, but we are going to protect them, and they are on our side of the property. But I think maybe the tree number 1, which is not on the property line, that is now going to have protection as dictated by Hudson engineering plans. Tree 13 is going to be a little bit further away. So tree 14 didn't have protection before. That gets close to the dry well construction, so that's going to be protected as well now. Every single tree is now going to have formal tree protection around it.
Okay, so there are no neighbor trees that, I see some open areas like just where your cursor was. There are no trees on neighboring properties whose roots would be, it would be so close as to have the roots on your property.
No, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. Yes, none of them are going to be impacted. We're not getting close to any of the neighbor trees.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to then, we did get a application summary sheet from AKRF, recommending that we consider site plan approval for tonight. They had no other issues. Alicia, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
No, all of our concerns have been addressed. Thanks.
Okay, great.
I have something to add.
Okay.
After
Go right ahead.
after reviewing the most recent tree preservation plan that was sent today, there are a few things still missing. The tree protection indication on the tree preservation plan should look more like Hudson's tree preservation on C1, which indicates the protection around the drip line of each specific tree whose canopies are different sizes. So that should also be on the tree protection plan so that it reflects exactly what each tree's canopy sizing is. In addition to that, it still needs the Village of Mamaroneck Tree Protection Standard, SD-1L, which is also on Hudson's plan. And I know this is a new tree law, so I appreciate everyone's back and forth in trying to get this right. I know that there's a lot to include, so that all the root information and digging around roots that you added to the tree preservation plan is information that's important to include. So thank you for that.
Yes,
But those 2 aspects still need updates.
So the information is on Hudson's plans for the construction, but the actual plan, tree preservation plan that's required by the new tree law doesn't have the same information in it.
Yes, it shows each tree, but it doesn't reflect exactly the canopy size, which is where the tree protection fencing needs to go.
Right, okay.
Can I just add something? So the irony of the process is the tree canopy measurements and estimations actually from Kate, but she's focusing more on the design aspect, and the actual execution document is going to be Mike Hudson's.
Right.
So we can definitely copy over the fences that he's putting on as per the requirements.
Yeah. Well, I think that most of the tree preservation plans are not going to come to the planning board because they don't require a site plan. Somebody's going to cut down some trees, and there's other trees to be preserved or whatnot. Because we have this information in the site plan, I think it's good to have like belt and suspenders, that the tree preservation plan has all the information. But we, as the owner just pointed out, it is in the documents that are going to be going to the construction type people. So I feel a little comfortable about that, but I'm going to ask Charlie, there you are. Can we put something in the resolution to just require that those two documents, the tree preservation plan be corrected to add those two pieces of information?
Yep, that's not a problem. I just added a note to the resolution to add that as a condition.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we can handle it. Everybody comfortable?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Great. Susan, do you have any other comments?
No, that's it.
Thank you for all your work as well as the applicant's work for our very first foray into the tree preservation plan world. So thank you. We did get an opportunity to comment on the law only after it was passed. We were focusing more on process and code and not on the actual document. So this was our first sort of real life experience with it. Mm-hmm. Might have some more comments back to the board of trustees now about it. Our tree committee did a great job with a lot of detail on it. It only took them, I don't know how many years. A lot of years. Okay. John, John Keller, do you have anything to add? I know you were also instrumental in helping with the tree canopy and the moving, making sure the access to the back of the property this afternoon was appropriate during construction, keeping the driveway. Is there anything else that?
No, I was happy to be involved. Hudson's office addressed all our issues this afternoon. Mm-hmm. And obviously prior to that, all the drainage issues and the site plan issues. Okay. We're happy with the plans.
Okay, does any member of the planning board have any other questions or comments that they would care to make?
I just have a question about the resolution, but
that's same with me, just a resolution question.
That can segue then right to the resolution, which is the next thing on the agenda. Okay.
Seamus, do you want to go ahead?
No, you go, Cindy, and maybe it's the same thing.
Okay. This is more of a question about consistency in our resolutions when we talk about the maintenance of tree replacement. So it's item 10 on the condition list. It talks about maintaining the plantings and replacing them if they don't make it through 2 calendar years. So a nitpicky question is, how do you determine the calendar year? Is it 2 calendar years is an odd term to me, but maybe Charlie can explain that. But I think what Teresa always said to us is that anything in the conditions talking about replacing trees or vegetation, it was basically in perpetuity. There wasn't a time limit on it. You know, if it dies in year 3 or 4, that the applicant is then off the hook and can take it down according to the tree law. I just am not sure where the 2-year replacement language, it seems more limiting than what I thought I understood the requirement in previous applications to be.
Interesting, because I read that sentence by saying that sentence is in accordance with the tree law, local law number 5 of 2021.
And it may be, but do you remember when Teresa has explained to us in the past that, you know, these requirements of following a landscaping plan, it's basically in perpetuity, not that someone's going to, well,
but if the board has passed a code to change that.
So they've actually limited the responsibility of the homeowner to now only maintain trees for 2 years and replace them if they should die.
I'd have to go look at the tree law, pull up the code and look at the tree law. I'm assuming that our regular land use attorney didn't read it well, but that's the way that reads to me. You know, I don't know if now that law is on the books, we can do anything else than that.
No, and I'm not saying we should. I just accept that again, maybe I'm misremembering what Teresa told us.
No, I think we did have a discussion about this because we did do something with it. Oh, guess what?
The
The laws are now incorporated into the code. They must have done an update. Okay.
I see it. It doesn't survive for 2 calendar years. That doesn't make sense if you plant in October. The first year ends December 31st. That's just kind of silly. But
I think they meant 24 months.
that would have made more sense.
Yeah, 24 from the date of 2
I
years.
think
from
it's,
the date of
yeah,
planting.
2 calendar years from the day that they were planted. That's the way I read that.
Yeah, no.
But it's weird. But be that as it may,
Well, there's a lot of things weird in this law. That's why we sent pages and pages of comments.
some of which were taken and some of which weren't, as we're finding. So
they haven't reviewed our comments. That's still on the work session agenda.
do they get nothing done in this village? Clearly. So
Don't
obviously
prophesy to that.
this is the law. I get that, but I think we need to amend our comments because, again, Kathy, if you I don't know who else remembers this. Maybe I was dreaming, but I thought Teresa made it clear that these requirements to keep the plantings alive was in perpetuity. Again, within reason. Nobody's going to be the tree police and 10 years from them say, oh, that oak tree died last year. You need to.
Well, I have a candidate for the tree police.
But I think we've actually made it with this particular part of the law, and I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with
unless the site plan part of the code says something different than the tree code, the new tree law, because there was no comparison of the different sections of the code as we know when the tree law was passed.
Well, then we have a bigger problem because we have 2 parts of the code that conflict. Gee, what?
Well, I didn't say that we do. I'd have to go and look at site plan.
I understand, but so obviously this is fine with me, and Seamus, maybe this is your point too. I don't know.
I would guess not, but let's see if I'm right.
It was not.
Site plan review, site plan approval. Removal of trees. Oh,
this is fine, but I think we have a problem.
So the way and I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties there, but the way we've drafted the resolution with the tree law in mind, and excuse me because I'm about to be interrupted by a child, but is that for a period of 2 years after the planting, if they don't survive, they would have to be replaced by the applicant. That's the only limitation within the tree law. So there was no language of perpetuity in the tree law.
No, we understand that, but I think, the other resolutions we've done, Teresa advised us there was no time limit on those.
In the past, we've done, and basically they have to be replaced. So now that this new law is in place and we have our first experience with this new law, the question is, can we still say in perpetuity or leave out the 2 years? We can't have every applicant like this particular owner who values trees and wants his yard to look nice and to be full of plants and trees and things for pollinators. So that's the question. I don't know exactly where.
That is, if that's what this board has done in the past pursuant to its site plan authority, which includes landscaping review and so forth, that would be appropriate. We just added the language, I believe, to be compliant with the tree law and to be consistent with the tree law. But you have the ability under your site plan review authority to add additional language if you would like.
Okay. So we can strike. We can change that condition in the event that any of the trees planted shown on the tree protection plan do not survive following planting, then they shall be replaced at the applicant's expense, and strike the 2 calendar years and strike the in accordance with the local law 5, which is no longer available as a reference anyway, because it's been incorporated into the code at section 318 8J. Okay, as long as we, so that, does that answer your question, Cindy?
Yeah, that works for me, is if we're allowed to do that. I think that's been our policy in the past.
He says we are, so.
Yeah, the tree law is separate and apart from your site plan review authority. So
Mhm.
that the tree law essentially sets the base, and then you can use your site plan authority as
Okay,
needed to
great.
go above and beyond.
Excellent, okay.
Kathy, I sent you a link to it if you wanted to get it. I just emailed you a link to
No,
it.
I have it up on my other screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found it, yeah, thanks. Okay, thank you very much, Brittany. Okay, Seamus, you have a comment about the resolution?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because, since we had a lot of correspondence, even just today on this, which is always hard to make sure that you're looking closely at the latest version.
Mhm.
Let me say it very approximately first, and then we can narrow in. Between the Kellard Sessions whereas segment, and then even down in the reference to section 2, I think we should have a June 22nd date in here. I
Absolutely.
believe.
Yeah. I mean, even if the second whereas on the first page, we know all those dates have to be changed. To
Okay.
whatever came in today.
And then I did just want to ask that to maybe John Kellard, but Susan, just that you guys collectively looked at the same thing, which is what came today. And so when we reference that, you are good, right? Because I know that there was some changes even between how some changes from the landscape to the engineering, and just making sure that you guys looked at the same final version.
Yes, with the changes that I mentioned that will be in the resolution.
We actually were on the conference call together, which makes me happy. The people are reaching out and working together. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of changes of the dates, where it says, dated June 10th, last revised June 10th. There's multiple changes that have to be changed to the 22nd.
And then did the final change, the June 22nd, does that get rid of the need for number 2? Was that covered now, or is that even still outstanding? Other items were addressed.
Oh, the second condition?
Yeah, the second condition, sorry, yep.
Oh, that probably can come out, although prior to the building permit sheets A1, P100, P101 should be.
That has to remain.
That has to remain?
Condition 2 has to remain.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay, and is it were those versions just not touched? They were not changed? They're based on the conversation that happened?
We were focused on the construction access this afternoon and during our discussions. It was primarily focused on that, so I didn't even check the curb line, whether that was adjusted or not on the plan. So I'd rather leave the condition in.
And then we have to add the condition that Susan brought up, that the tree protection plan needs to be amended to show the tree protection indication. That should be the same as what's on Hudson C1 plans. The protection should be at the canopy. Is that correct, Susan? I took good notes, I hope. And the second one is that the tree protection plan standard SD1L should be reflected in the tree protection plan. It's on the Hudson plans, but not in the tree protection plan.
Yeah, it's on Hudson's sheet C3.
Okay. Are planning board comfortable with moving forward with the resolution that's got?
Yeah, there's just a small error in the first whereas. The address is wrong. It should be 415, not 425.
Oh, wow, good eyes. I've probably read this 5 times. I've read 5 different versions of this.
Well,
I'm making the changes as you guys go, so that I just added that.
Okay. Oh, this says C and E sections. Okay. The third whereas has the correct code citation. So check that. All right. I mean, there's nothing here of substance other than adding that one condition and making a change to condition 10. So, we're good with approving the resolution as amended. Anybody have any objections to moving forward? Nope. Speak now. Okay. All right. I need a motion then to approve the resolution as amended, as just discussed.
So moved.
Oh, Richard,
My turn.
I need a second.
second,
Okay. Cindy,
yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Seamus,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. I'm glad you were here, Charles.
Yeah, and just a note, as I look through this, I think there's a fair amount of work to get the right June 22nd dates in throughout. So we should just look really carefully because we haven't seen the right version of that. So
Yeah, well, what happens now is Charlie and Teresa will clean this up and send it to me to be signed. So I'll double check everything unless you're volunteering for me to forward it to you and you can double and send it back.
happy to be deputized if needed. There's just a lot of June 22nd throughout.
Yeah, and not everything was resubmitted, so some things are still gonna
Yes.
be, I totally get it. I
Yeah.
totally- So
Yeah.
all the documents are all available to Teresa and to Charlie, so we should be good. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We can say goodbye to the 415 Claflin folks. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope you don't run into any supply chain issues like everybody else is doing.
We'll be sending back the updated landscape plan with the 2 changes you need.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll see you at your next meeting.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
Okay, and that brings us then to the last time on our agenda, just a discussion tonight with regards to a process for planning board to be involved in the comprehensive plan update. I don't have a lot of history to tell you about this, other than the process began, I believe, back in 2019. And it was perceived at that time as sort of being an update, like not a major comprehensive plan effort, but just sort of like an update. I think it morphed from then, but then it ran into the pandemic. And so everything got put on hold. And so now the Board of Trustees is trying to revive the effort. The consultant who had been engaged is still with the project. And he was sending out emails to people, letting them know that the process was starting up again. I did not get that email as the chairperson of the planning board. I got that email because I had attended 1 or 2 of the sessions. There was no information in the email, or once I looked at the schedule as to what their time frame was. I did send an email to the consultant and asked him for more information and explained that the planning board was meeting tonight. I invited him actually to join us, but he was not available. So basically what he told me is that they're going to be doing their rewrite in August. So we have between now until the end of July to put together any comments that we might have on the entire 400 and something page document. Which the email I sent to you, I didn't click the link before I sent it. I just forwarded it to you all. Then when I went to click the link didn't work.
Right.
So
Right.
I had to view it as a browser. If you view it, it says if you can't reach this, view it in your browser. And the link did work, but Brittany was kind enough to send the link out to everybody today. There are, let's see, 10 chapters, and there's 5 of us. I don't know how to go about this other than everybody read everything and put our comments together, or we can split up chapters so that everybody doesn't have to read all 480 pages plus the appendices. But I think a lot of this stuff is intertwined. So if you read one chapter and you don't read another, you're kind of missing how this is all supposed to fit together for a comprehensive plan of the future of the village of Mamaroneck, which is supposed to inform our work. The current comprehensive plan, those of us who went through the big secret review for the Hampshire Country Club, one of the points, for secret is it copacetic with the comprehensive plan. We don't really look at the comprehensive plan for some of these smaller projects that we do because they're not changing anything of the character. But it is important, and it's by law. We have to have an updated comprehensive plan after so many years. I don't know what the actual rules are, but I think we're probably well behind.
So Kathy, does the current draft represent what the elected officials want to see, or is it just kind of a conglomeration from the consultant and comments they got from the comprehensive plan
there were
committee?
workshops, there were meetings, there were workshops. Members of the public were invited to them. I can't say that they were well attended, but there were, they went through a comprehensive plan process where they were supposed to reach, you're supposed to reach out to the community and get a lot of community input. They're planning on doing more of that community input, sort of reviving it. It's kind of important, really, to get the community input. I don't think it's reflective of the elected officials. I think it's more the work of the consultant with some community input. If an elected official showed up at a workshop, they certainly could participate. I think the town of Mamaroneck is doing this now. If anybody has seen the Facebook posts or things telling everybody that this is going on and that please come to these workshops and stuff like that.
Well, maybe Richard would know. Did a previous planning board ever opine on any of this?
Not directly. I think we were given the same information that the general public got. I vaguely remember going to one planning board meeting. There was a discussion of maybe 1 or 2 chapters, but it was all very iffy, very, very premature, very tentative. And
I agree with you.
Nobody really formally sought our input.
Yeah, no, I was on the planning board for some of this. I mean, this is my end of, I'm going to be 5 years at the end of December, or at the beginning of December. So I can remember back to 2019. I think my name was attached to an earlier planning board comp plan, and so I was getting emails based on that or based on other involvement I've had with the village. I don't recall the previous chairperson of the planning board reaching out to planning board members the way we're doing now, saying, okay, planning board, this is important to us. And thank you, Seamus, for reinforcing that notion in my head. And that we should do something about it. I mean, I didn't necessarily go to these workshops as a member of the planning board, as Richard said. I went as a member of the public.
Yeah.
But planning boards are usually involved in these efforts.
Do you think we could ask the consultant to send us the plan in its current state so that we could do it?
That's what we have. That's what you have. That's what you have.
I was unable to get to it.
There's a very easy way to get to it. There's a website. So if you go to I think it's Plan VOM. Let me see there. If you go to Plan VOM, very simple, planvom.org, you get the latest on it, and then you can just click and download as a PDF. You have it right on your computer. So there are links, and they may work. Some of them worked for me, some didn't.
I must have missed it. I'll look for it.
Yeah, and Brittany sent you a link this afternoon.
I couldn't get that to work either.
It didn't work.
Did you
Yeah, try
view it in a browser? Instead of viewing it in.
Try the website. You'll get it no problem with the website. It's
Yeah, the link was the direct PDF.
It can't be emailed. It's too large to be emailed. The only other thing we could do is upload it to a shared drive or something.
So I'm at that website. I see a 2012 comp plan.
Go to the very bottom.
Oh, okay, November 2020.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
So that's downloading a PDF, which will take all night.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then you'll have it.
No,
That's
it's not. It downloaded fast.
Yeah, it downloads fast.
Okay, there it is.
And
Got
save
it.
Save it on your computer, and that's how you can read it.
Got it.
I don't think you want to print it out.
No. So it's the third draft, November 2nd.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's what it's called, third draft, yes.
I think I have to look at the whole thing. So
That was my thinking, but, I was, do I want to look at this whole thing? But we have time, why don't we try just to see what we can get done between now and the next meeting, extra week, so we have 3 weeks.
And I think there's a fair amount of skimming that I actually read this like 2 years ago or whatever, kind of, not word for word, but there's a fair amount of skimming you can do. And one thing I would say is, obviously I think, but we can all collectively think about this. I don't think we're looking for our comments as individuals and residents. It's really just kind of skimming through, like, where is the planning board sections that might be relevant. So I'm thinking that helps too, but I gotta look at it again as well before the next meeting, maybe.
So then we would put together a memo and send it to the consultant, and that's the end of it.
I did get an email from Ashley volunteering to compile our comments.
She does a great job with that.
Yeah. So why don't we have 2 meetings in July. I've invited the consultant to come to the next one. We could either share comments or ask questions, or a combination of all of those things. He hasn't responded. He's out of town. But he responded quickly to my question about the schedule. So I'm assuming he'll respond to this when he gets back. And let's just kind of plow through it and see what we come up with. I think that's sounds like a plan.
It's still less paper than Hampshire, so it's kind of a breeze.
It is less paper than Hampshire, and I'm looking at my old folder. Actually, I do have notes from meeting number 2, which was April 16th, 2018. I don't have any notes from meeting number 1 because I probably wasn't there. But the handout from agenda for meeting number 2 I have with notes on it. And then I have some draft manuscripts. And then I have another meeting note from October 2019, where they were talking about individual chapters. So it started in 2018. And as if you read the email from the consultant where he indicated all the things that had been going on in the world since they started, that would possibly impact. I think it kind of got the flavor of some of the things that have changed, not only the pandemic, but other things in culturally that have changed and that could it possibly impact, including Ida and flooding and other things, cultural changes. All right, so that sounds like a plan. Then. Frank, you can always volunteer to help us with this if you're bored in retirement. A little light reading.
May take you up on that, Kat.
The more the merrier.
Frank is making his phone number unlisted.
I only have his work number, so. But that's okay. We won't bother you. We won't bother you. Any stress in your life. Okay, I think that's everything on our agenda then. It sounds like we have a plan.
Hey, Kathy, thanks for bringing that up. I think that, if there's not much as a planning board, then great, we can skim through it. But I think it's, why not look at it?
And everybody, of course, is certainly welcome to participate as individual residents of the Village of Mamaroneck in whatever workshops, anything that they do. And hopefully you'll be, put on the mailing list. The planning board will be put on the mailing list, so you'll get notified of things like that. If not, if I get things, I try to share them with you. So, okay. Good.
Great.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'm hoping somebody else would do it.
All right, I think Ellen spoke up also. Kind of waved. So let's say Ellen, give us a second. Okay, let's just do a
Yeah.
voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Night.